Hi, this is Dawn here for a brief recording. I just want to talk a little bit about a realization that I have had. I'm just still kind of, sifting through it. So this is just a soul streaming conversation recording I'm making, mostly for my own, documenting my own process, but hopefully it will be beneficial to those who come across it. And if not, go about your way, and blessings to you. I have been reflecting on my process and my experience. So for a long time, since I was a child, really, I have understood within me that my journey here is distinct from many people's experience. I do think there are others doing the same kind of process that I am, and I'm not going to actually go into that because I'm uncertain how many and or how similar the processes are. I think for many of us, there are like intersecting places at which our journey is parallel to others, and sometimes that's many, many others, and sometimes it's just a few. Like maybe, well, sometimes it's maybe 1,000 people in the world, but sometimes it's maybe more like there are only a very few, like a handful of people. At a given time. So who knows about all that? And that's my mind wanting to dissect it. But let me speak from my heart about my experience. So I have always been aware of the fact that I am incarnated here at this time for a specific purpose from the time I was a very young child. And my very earliest memory is of wanting to go back because I was terrified of what I knew that this life might hold. Now, I always knew also that there were many various ways the entire thing could unfold, and that the biggest call for me was to remain present to all that happened and to allow the experiences that would come in this place and time, and to receive the beauty and the blessings that were here for me, and to walk in the way of wholeness. Although those are not the words that I would have used then, but I always understood that that was the purpose. And in that way, I suppose I was fortunate, and at the same time, it was difficult to understand all of these things, and particularly when it comes to the spiritual purpose of why we are all here, and to see that many, many others were either completely oblivious and unaware of that, or chose to know it, but essentially put it on the back burner, on the back shelf, tuck it away somewhere. And I could not do that. I still to this day do not know exactly why that is the case, but it is literally like I'm incapable of doing it. And at points in my journey where I have used all of my human will and everything I had to fight against it, it never has. I've never been able to sustain that at all for very long, and it has led me to some very difficult experiences, as it does for all of us. And yet, I think there are degrees that of which we choose to experience that, and some of us are here for very specific purposes, or possibly very general purposes, and yet our role is vital. All of us, our role is vital, every single one of us. So my experience was literally of kind of being awake from the beginning, and shutting myself down, turning off the lights, if you will, pretending not to know at various junctures to survive. And the other experience I've really been reflecting on, I just want to go ahead and mention this right here at the outset, is this experience that I've had throughout my life. And it started when I was very young, and has continued right up until now. I'm 52 years old. And it's this experience of many people seeing me as someone in need of help, assistance, support, who doesn't get it, or who just needs a little extra something. And it's quite it's quite an odd thing to experience. I became used to it, but it always confused me a bit, because it was as if, and the things that they wanted so desperately for me to experience and feel, and this goes across the board. This is not just, family members, close friends. This is literally the majority of people I've run across. I can hear and feel. I'm very clairsentient and, also clairvoyant and somewhat clairaudient, and so I can sense and feel things, and claircognizant as well. And so I can also know that I can know there's a higher purpose at times, and I've learned through my journey, and this annoys me, I'll just say it right up front, but I've learned that my composition, my makeup, various ways of looking things, whether it be human design or some of these other systems, or even for that matter the odd combination of astrological things, or the my personality traits. There's a lot of paradox. Let's just say it that way. There's a lot of paradox in me, and I am clean slate sort of within, and so I unknowingly, unwittingly, I become a projector to almost everybody that encounters me, and they can't not see themselves. And so it's not my intention, and I didn't actually know what was happening for a long time. I sort of began to understand this about a decade ago, and then had further insights and confirmations of this. And it's been a very odd experience, because on a human level, what happens is there's a connection, which I am longing on a human level for that connection to be deep and appreciative of, say, a friendship that comes into my awareness, and then the other person goes into this internally, into this place of, gosh, what can I do to help Dawn? or they are not even aware of what's happening with them, what's being triggered within them. Most often they're not aware. Some people probably are. And so then there's this little pattern of which they take actions, do something, say something, become something, in order to be helpful, which is I feel it all, and I see it all happening, and I accept it. I receive it graciously, and at times, it's been lovely what people have brought to my life. I wish it had come from just a pure place of equality, meeting me eye to eye, and yet I have accepted it. It hasn't felt always good, though, to be seen as someone, somehow lesser than or in need of help. And my experience of that has run the gamut. It's been across the board. So sometimes they have convinced me, yes, I must need help. I am flawed. I need to get with it. Yes, teach me. I've become so lowly and completely abandoned everything I knew to be true about myself, right on through the whole spectrum, all the way up to, oh my gosh, hello. I mean, I want to just give them a little clue as to, I was very arrogant, as to what's really going on, and, what I know to be true, and the level of mastery I have in terms of, not always, but in terms of some situations, and these things that certain people think they need to, quote, help me with, are I'm good with those, thank you very much, and it's actually the opposite being projected onto me, and I see it all playing out. Is very weird. And on a human level, so my own playing into that has run the gamut from just simple observation and acceptance of what I am able to receive with gratitude, all the way right up to, like I said, the both poles there, in terms of, making myself lesser than or greater than. And neither is true, of course. We are all equal and on this journey in our own unique ways. And radiant and resplendent, and none of us in need of fixing. None of us at any time. And our judgment of one another in terms of whatever behaviors we see that we are uncomfortable with is all about us. It's not about the other. So there's been the spiritual perspective, and then there's been the human experience. And ultimately, my human experience has been one of extreme pain and loneliness, and feeling rejected, yet seeing that there is just a higher thing playing out. But ultimately, still very much, alone. And it's been something, I've been aware of for a long time now, at least a decade, probably more like 20, 25 years. On some level, my perspective on it has shifted somewhat as I have begun to understand somehow that I asked to experience this before I, accepted this mission that I am on, and this life, living this life, and learning this experience of being here now, which is one that I have at times fought very hard against, because there are other places in this galaxy, in the cosmos, that are less challenging than this dualistic, game of polarities that we seem to be playing out here on Earth, and where everyone knows the same thing. Now, I do believe all of us know deep within our hearts and souls. So my experience has been one of just, I don't even know how to describe it, because it is painful, aching, more than aching. It's painful, loneliness. It's like, I don't have words for it. And, all the while, as I've been experiencing this in various ways, from the time I was a child, and I was, perhaps seen as the one that was a, problem child, troublemaker, misfit, difficult, obstinate, whatever else, all the way up to my current experience, where I know I am aligned fully with, to the best of my ability, I'm aligned fully with what I'm being asked to do now in terms of my understanding of God's will and my role here, which is again a little complex, but it's about holding space and being as present as I can, and at the same time allowing all of it, allowing all the emotion, all the thoughts, all the human experience, and knowing that none of that detracts in any way, shape, or form from who I am as a spiritual being. And in fact, it is all love. And that is God. God is all that is, and God is love, and love is all the parts we would separate, all the parts we would call other than, all of the aspects of self we would reject to present ourselves as something that we believe is more perfect, more holy, better. It's all holy. It is all beautiful. It is all good. It is all love. And that is what I'm here to learn and to teach. And many times it has felt like, so there's the wilderness aspect, the desert wanderings, the, feeling completely alone and at times isolated by others who see me as freakish. And I'll just, this is a good place as any to insert here that all my life, Jesus has been with me, and I have a very, I walk closely with Yeshua, and he shows me scenes every time I go into this. He shows me, scenes from his own life, where, he was certainly labeled exactly as a freak, a misfit, unbalanced, unstable, not following the rules, unwelcome, and despite the church's portrayal of him as something other than their portrayal of him as, the same things that the disciples wanted, as a king, or as a picture of perfection and only the most positive attributes of God, or as one who was humble and submissive and gentle, or as merely one, and only that, or as one who was this emotionless, sexless, I don't know, a robotic kind of, dutiful Son of God who was, and yes, Jesus was absolutely faithful to the work of God within him. And he aligned his life with the will of the Father and the Mother, God. But okay, so every time in my own journey, I come up against this feeling of, wandering alone. He shows me scenes from his own life, where he was very attuned to the higher calling and allowing his human experience simultaneously. And I truly believe that this is what we're being led into. Now, not all of us are here for that purpose, but we're being led into it, and the way is opening up for us to see more clearly how this human experience is of God. It is not in need of redemption in the way we have understood redemption. It is an opportunity for us to radically return, to make the radical return to the whole of who we are, to participate in the reclamation, the full reclamation of who we are, the full reclamation, meaning all aspects, all parts, as of God. To continue to cease to make ourselves as gods and then separate what we don't think is worthy or what we don't think is of God. To cease to do that, and instead to embrace all of it, and to step forward in faith, and to know that we are, as we are, whole, complete, loved, accepted, welcomed, showered with abundant blessings, and that the only thing that is necessary is that we show up for the way that we have been asked to show up, and that we allow the experience of the whole of our lives, and that we know that we walk with God wherever we may be. And Jesus has, shown me these pictures from his own life. I won't go into the details here, but some from his childhood and teen years and early adulthood, right up to his crucifixion and resurrection. And he was, I believe, in every way a model for us. So those who resonate with that, I think that's important, but it's also really critical to not see him as this one-dimensional character, and these pictures that hang around of him in this very either fixed pose with the peace sign, or not the peace sign, I'm sorry, the one finger pointing to God, the sort of the holy Jesus, or the shepherd Jesus, which is an image I love. But at the same time, there was more. And there is always more and more and more for us to understand about who we are. And this has been, it's been a gift to me. And while it has been a lonely journey, and it's been painful in many human aspects, it's also been beautiful, because I know in each of these encounters that I have, and I'm talking here a lot about interpersonal situations, where, myself and another person, but there's also been, where I've witnessed two viewpoints, let's say. We've all witnessed that of late, coming up for release, and for ultimately our understanding that it is all even within the polarizations and the dichotomies and the duality that we experience here. And trust me, I have as much of a distaste for that as almost anyone that I know. But even in that, there is the beauty of seeing that it is all set free. It's all an aspect of our experience, and we must, have an awareness and an understanding of that it not reject parts, because otherwise we're just caught in a proverbial, game of ping pong, and it never ends. And so the opportunity is to come back to the whole of who we are, to see the parts of ourselves that we've disowned, and to embrace all, to love ourselves, and to, in that process, that journey of loving ourselves, to understand how much we are loved by all that is, by our Creator, by this life, and to see beauty in all of it. So I think, I think that's the main thing I wanted to say, and just, food for thought for those of you out there. And if you, like me, have experienced a lonelier type of a journey through life, then I hope that you will be able to understand and see beneath all these experiences is only love, love and only love. And love and only love is the bridge to what's coming next and what is already here for us, which is the kingdom of heaven on earth. Love made manifest here and now in this present moment, just as we are, not with no need to change any of it. It's just about seeing and allowing, being. It is a whole new way of seeing ourselves, a whole new way of being ourselves, a whole new way of freeing ourselves that really begins at that center still point of awareness. Yes, becoming the observer, but it's not what I want to say here is it's not what I hear so many people talking about, who have in a sense, kind of gotten themselves out of the matrix, so to speak, or out of, systems that are on lockdown or other sorts of self-limiting beliefs and interpretations. And yet I see so many just going straight to it's exactly a replication of the same thing, which is the way that it comes out in terms of how it's being said is let's choose love, focus on the positive, be light. And it's essentially walking a narrow line that is the same thing. It is rejecting a part of who you are. And that is not what we are called to do. We are called to embrace all, to love all, to be who we are authentically. And sometimes when Jesus went into the temple, he was who he was authentically. Yes, he was following the will of God. And yes, he was doing God's work, but he did not deny the anger that was stirred up with him, which is a very human emotion. And he also did, and it's very interesting when I hear that story talked about in churches, because of what the way that it's often described is sort of like, oops, Jesus. Or either he was doing God's will, and so he just went through the temples and sort of like, again, that robotic kind of he did what had to be done, and he was somehow detached from the emotion of it, or sort of like, okay, so Jesus did that, and he accomplished that, and then he sort of realized that the anger, people use it as an object lesson, he got angry, and then of course he quickly shifted that and turned to good works or whatever. And it's neither. No, he allowed himself to be fully present here on this earth in this current experience that he was given to experience. He allowed himself to be fully human, to be fully divine, and to not let his humanity separate him from his divinity, and to not let his divinity separate himself from his humanity. Do you see that? Do you hear what I'm saying? It is all God. Of God, it is all love. And this is not to say that there are not, there are certainly, there is the prince of this world, there is the spirit of darkness, there is evil, there is, and yet the way to avoid that evil is not simply to only experience a narrow band of reality. In other words, the way to escape the darkness is not to deny it. It's not only to walk in light and love. It's just not. And I just want I want to say that. Sorry, I'm coming across a little strong here, but it's part of, I think why. In some of the cases of my own personal experience, I've really been, observing this, that it's part of what I trigger in people, because I am unwilling to align with a way of moving through the world that is a denial of part of the experience. I am also unwilling to dive into what does not feel aligned for me. And so here's full disclosure here, which is I have a really huge challenge. What I'm here to master in this life is this whole allowance thing, which drives me nuts. I don't want to allow it. I am, if any of you are listening, I am, and you don't just wish we'd had to deal with all this, I am in the same way. I would like to cut out at times all of the lesser versions of God and reality, what I see as the lesser versions. But listen, it's not. There are perversions. There are things that are not of the highest vibration, and many of us have been conditioned, interestingly, to believe that we want to only go for those high notes of life, the mountaintop experiences, the highest vibrations. And so we've internalized this fear of the lower vibrations. And again, because we've done that is where the evil comes from. It's where the darkness feeds off of that. It is because we have not been able to come to this place of stillness and neutrality and seeing the whole of who we are, to include aspects that we would wish to change. And I believe that part of the opportunity for us is to learn to love ourselves in every day and every moment. Stop seeing ourselves as a self-improvement project and, jumping through hoops so that we might become more purified. There are times at which we do need to remove ourselves from from the sources of things that are leading us off track, certainly. And yet, we are called to be in the world, not of it, but in it. And Jesus came that we might have life and have it to the full. He did not come so that we might have on a silver platter only the experience of lightness, joy, and, singing with the angels. Ultimately, yes. But that is not why we are here on earth. That is not why we are here right now in this reality. That is not why our souls have chosen to make these journeys. Whatever your journey is, your journey may be very different than mine. There are some of us who are here to, for example, learn, simply to love a particular way of being in the world that maybe might have to do with some limitation, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. There are some of us who are here to learn to, speak up. And usually it's a combination of these things, by the way. But some of us who are here to learn to, become empowered and to become courageous and to live authentically. And that's our primary lesson. All of us are here to do that. But, I'm talking about your primary lesson. And not just lessons. That's another thing I want to say. It's not just lessons. It's allowing the full expression, life, living in full expression. It's allowing that, allowing yourself to be fully you and not giving a flip about what anybody else thinks. That's, that's something I've kind of had, although I fall into this chasm. I've noticed that too, I pretty much have that and then I lose it. And then I have it and I lose it. And so consistency is another thing. And just, being able to be present to all of it and to not judge yourself when you slip out of what you perceive to be slipping out of or falling out of favor with God. That's how you see it. I don't think you fall out of favor with God. Not at all. There is no falling out of favor with God. All right, I got off on a tangent there. So at times, yes, we need to turn away from what is leading us off course, which is, but it's not, we cannot build walls around our heart, and we cannot build dividing lines, and we cannot see that we are in need of such protection all the time, because we are, when we align ourselves with this life and the highest vibration of life and the love of God, then we have all we have needed. And we are able to move through this experience, whatever experience our souls have chosen, in a way that is seamless and leads us back to the whole of who we are. And that's the joy of the journey right there. I'm going to have to go, and so I appreciate you listening to this audio if you have. I hope there's been something here for you. Welcome your comments or conversation. You may contact me at dawnrichardson@gmail.com, and I'll be back with another soul streaming audio. Much love to you. Take care.